December 1st. It's Logan and I. Logan, the Eagles are struggling right now.
They definitely are struggling, no doubt about it. The defense has given up 40 points back-to-back weeks to the Buccaneers at home, where the fans booed them, and then on Thanksgiving against Detroit, who has not really been playing well at all this year. But right now, the real question is the quarterback trouble. Mark Sanchez has not lived up to it ever since Bradford went down with a shoulder injury. DeMarco Murray has not lived up to expectations, and this wide receiving core is not doing anything this year. Jordan Matthews was projected to have a good year, hasn't done anything. And as I mentioned, the defensive side of the ball has not been good at all.
The Eagles are in a world of troubles. I mean, you look at this team, they are on both sides of the ball, not playing to expectations. Many thought this was a Super Bowl team.
No doubt. But there's some bright side is that they're only one game out of first, but we'll see what happens going forward.
They have a date with the Patriots this Sunday. That should be an interesting competition. Let's get to a team, though, that's playing pretty good football, and the NFL's leading rusher, Adrian Peterson. Let's find out how he's doing it in film room this week. This is a play late in the game against the Falcons. The Falcons were pretty much out of it without any timeouts. It's 3rd and 5. Interesting formation here with 3 tight ends, Rhett Ellison, Michael Pruitt, as well as Kyle Rudolph, all bunched up here on the left side of the formation. They send out Stephon Diggs all by himself over here, and a single back set with Peterson, no lead back. It's a toss play, a zone sweep. They're going to pull the left tackle, Matt Khalil, who gets a great block on linebacker Paul Warlow. And they send their guards to the second level as they block down. They all block to the left. They're blocking an area rather than in a power set where you block the guy in front of you. Let's go ahead and run the tape here. It's a great play by the Vikings, and really, Adrian Peterson, once he gets to the second level, nobody stops him. Peterson has been doing this all year long. The Falcons had no chance in this game. I mean, Peterson rushed for, 158 yards on 29 carries, 5.4 yards per carry. That was just one of his 2 touchdowns. Minnesota's playing great football. Offensively and defensively, they're getting the job done. But you really got to like what they have with Adrian Peterson. I mean, he's 30 years old. He's leading the league in rushing. They're doing a lot of nice things.
Yep, they definitely are. And I think that they'll continue to do nice things going forward.
And you got to like I mean, they don't have the best offensive line. But when you have a running back that's that dynamic, he solves a lot of problems.
No doubt about it. No doubt.
Well, let's get to that Sunday night game between the Patriots and the Broncos. The Patriots lose in overtime.
Yeah, 30-24. Brock Osweiler scored 17 points in the 4th quarter to come back and face Tom Brady in overtime, and they ended up beating him. What a great job by him. He did a really fabulous job in the final drive of the game, trying to drive them down the field. There was a lot of questionable calls in the game, but when it came down to it, he stepped up when it mattered. Broncos defense actually did pretty good for the most part in this game. So, congrats to Brock Osweiler, and good job for the Broncos. That was a huge victory for them.
The Patriots' remaining schedule, as we mentioned, their date with Philadelphia coming up. Then they play the Texans, Titans, Jets, and Dolphins. All of those are very winnable games. They might not lose another game.
Well, I think they might. It depends how long Rob Gronkowski's out for, however. Because, especially with Amendola out...
It's likely to be a few weeks for Gronkowski.
So...
They could... The matchup against the Jets is extremely intriguing because it's in New York.
Yeah, I could definitely see them losing that one. And as much as how bad the Dolphins are playing this year, I could see them potentially losing that one.
I don't see them losing that game at all.
I just have to see it. I saw it last year. I can possibly see it this year.
They will play in Miami. They did beat Miami, but that was week 1. Remember, the Patriots were 2-2 at a point last year.
I know that. Oh, yeah.
And they barely beat the Raiders, I remember.
Yeah. Yeah, but, I mean, still, I got Miami. I'm going to go with them.
Well, let's get to a team that's kind of not kind of, they are resurging, and that's the Seattle Seahawks. They're playing better football. They win at home against Pittsburgh 39-30. Really, this was a phenomenal game, but We haven't seen a whole lot of games in the last 3 years from the Seahawks where they've won 39-30. This is a team that has been built on defense, and really, they're not getting a whole lot of excellent play from their defense. It's Russell Wilson and Thomas Rawls who are stepping up for this team.
No doubt about it. This is Russell Wilson's first game he's ever won in his career when the defense has given up 25 or more points in a game. So he really stepped up. This was definitely a big game. They didn't really have a great running game, but Russell Wilson had 5 touchdown passes, and good for him. The Seattle Seahawks are now the 6th seed in the NFC, so they could be a wild card team at the end of it. And, Jimmy Graham being out for the year, that's going to be a loss, I think, because, he really never quite fit into this offense all the way, but he was still a major weapon for Russell Wilson.
In Seattle, a team that you don't want to face in the playoffs, if they get hot and they get a wild card, granted they will be on the road if they get a wild card, but still a team with that experience and that explosiveness, you do not want to face in the playoffs. Thomas Rawls, 21 carries, 81 yards, a lone touchdown. He continues to look like an explosive, dynamic back. As I mentioned about Peterson earlier, he's playing good football. They're getting the job done in Seattle.
Yeah, no doubt. Pete Carroll has really turned this team around after an awful start, and people were questioning them. And now they potentially could be a playoff team. And as for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they need to win in the next couple of weeks. They play the Bengals, not this week, but next week. So that'll definitely be a big game for them.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Ben Roethlisberger banged up. He took himself out of that game with that concussion. Let's move on, though, to my Oakland Raiders, who eked out a victory against the Titans this week, 24-21. Controversial holding call on a 4th and 8. The league already has come out and said that the officials were wrong to throw that penalty. The Raiders get a second chance. Carr throws a touchdown pass to Seth Roberts. They get the deal done and win this, and their playoff hopes are lingering at 5 and 6. They're still in it, but they have a tough upcoming schedule. Every team they play, except for the Chargers, has a winning record as of now. They have themselves a matchup with the Chiefs this upcoming Sunday back at home. That's going to be a good matchup. They play the Chiefs twice. They have two more games against them. But Derek Carr continuing to impress. 330 yards, 3 touchdowns in this game, no interceptions. After a few weeks of struggling, he gets back on track. From your perspective, what did you see here in this game that you liked on both sides of the ball from the Titans and the Raiders?
Well, from the Titans side of the ball, it shows that they can actually stay in games and they're not just getting blown out every week. So, I liked what Marcus Mariota did. He threw a crucial interception.
He threw 2 crucial interceptions,
which is why the Raiders won that game. And then, as for the Raiders, I liked what Derek Carr did in this game. He protected the football very nicely. The Raiders, they could potentially be a playoff team, but the question is they have to really step up and start to win these games. They still have Denver, Green Bay, Kansas City, as you mentioned twice, San Diego. So this could be potentially tough going forward.
David Amerson and Nate Allen with those interceptions. Yeah, they play at Denver and they play home against Green Bay. It's going to be tough, and if the Raiders want to get a wild card spot, they're probably going to have to win out. Maybe lose one game, but they're definitely going to have to win this game against the Chiefs, who currently hold a wild card spot. Chiefs are a tough team coming in. They're going to be without Justin Houston, probably. They're already without Jamal Charles, but they've won 5 straight, so that should be a good matchup. Let's get to the San Francisco 49ers, who lost a tough one against the against the Cardinals this weekend.
This was definitely a tough loss for the 49ers. They were pretty much, they easily could have won this game, I believe. Carson Palmer really didn't have a touchdown. He didn't have an interception either. He did have a rushing touchdown that gave the Cardinals the lead. And Blaine Gabbert has actually done a pretty solid job for them so far.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of checkdowns to Sean Drawn, the running back. So, this is definitely a rebuilding year for the 49ers. I don't see Blaine Gabbert being the franchise quarterback going forward. But, they've kept themselves in games over the last few weeks.
Yeah, and especially at home, their defense has played quite well. But back to Gabbert, that's what you're going to get from him. You're going to get a lot of checkdowns, a lot of safe throws. But he stretched the field. He made some good throws on Sunday. Really, the quarterback that Gabbert is he's built, like we said, on those short throws over the middle. checking it down to running backs, letting them do the work. But an interesting report came out this week saying that Gabbert studied 5 times more than Colin Kaepernick. Players in the locker room respect that. They like that. They want a guy who's studying, putting his time in. And for a player like Kaepernick to not do that, the caliber that he was on just a few years ago, questions are brought up. I mean, he's had off-the-field issues and now locker room problems. And certainly when you're not studying, you're not going to get respect from your teammates. That's going to result in questions certainly brought up for Kaepernick. Gabbert, probably not going to be their quarterback, their quarterback solution, but for now, playing okay. I mean, he threw for over 300 yards, but they have some building blocks, and I think it starts on defense, and you have guys like Eric Armstead, Quentin Dial. They're going to have to be able to draft solid, though, if they want to get back into competition in a pretty tough division.
Definitely, no doubt about it. But,
let's get to our performances and duds, though.
Okay, well, my performance of the week is Brock Osweiler, who, like I said before, got a huge victory in primetime, only a second career start against the New England Patriots and Tom Brady. And then my other performer of the week is J.J. Watt in that Texans defense that was outstanding in the month of November. Only gave up 2 touchdowns all month long. They played some really tough teams. In fact, since week 8, they were first in points allowed per game, sack percentage at 9.4, third down percentage at 21.2, and total QBR at 23.2. And then my dud of the week is going to be the NFL referees. They have screwed up a lot of these games this year. It has not been a good officiating year. The NFL officials know that they've messed up. They've blatantly apologized in a lot of these games. Roger Goodell wants to mix up officiating crews. I don't know if that's going to help anything. But, it's just been a bad officiating year. The 49ers Cardinals officials, Pete Morelli, the crew chief of that official, he was actually pulled from the Sunday night game between the Steelers and Colts this week. He's going to do another game now. So it's just been a whole mess this whole year.
My performances of the week, Russell Wilson, 21 of 30, 345 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. In back-to-back weeks, he's had a quarterback rating over 100 against the Niners, of course, last week, and then this week against the Steelers. I'm going to go college football for my second. Ezekiel Elliott, he had a heck of a game against Michigan. 30 carries, 214 yards, 7 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns as well. For my dud, I'm going Cleveland. Cleveland Browns, that is. They lost a very tough one, but they're the troubles that Cleveland has had. I mean, how many different starting quarterbacks have they had in the last 15, 20 years? How many different head coaches they have had? I'd like to see Mike Pettin come back. I don't think that firing him is going to make this team any better. Bring him back. They need quarterback position stability, which they don't have. Manziel's getting in trouble left and right. This franchise right now is a joke. I mean, they're giving up 7. They're only rushing for 74.5 yards per game. They're giving up 400 yards on total offense. They're 31st in just about every single offensive category. This team they're in some doo-doo, and they need to resolve those problems in the offseason. They've had a bunch of first-round picks over the last few years and spent them on players like Justin Gilbert and Johnny Manziel, who haven't panned out at all. I mean, it's still early, but it doesn't look like Manziel's going to pan out. Gilbert's on the sideline as a healthy scratch in some of these games. So there's a lot of questions for Cleveland Browns, and Browns fans deserve more nonetheless.
Yes, they do. No doubt about it. Well, how about Dwayne Bowe catching only 3 passes this year?
And they're paying him $9 million. It's ridiculous.
Yep.
Let's get to a player who might be one of the best in his respective sport. That's Kobe Bryant. He's going to retire at the end of this year. Really, it's been a long, phenomenal career for Bryant.
No doubt about it. 20 years in the NBA. It's a shame that the Lakers are not living up to expectations at a game tonight.
The expectations for the season, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot to expect.
I know. I'm just saying no. I mean, I think he would have preferred to go out on a hot note and not really had his team struggling. But, still a remarkable career. In my opinion, one of the top 7 basketball players of all time. And, good for him. I'm happy for him and just look forward to retirement.
Career total of 32,683 points. He averaged 25.3 points per game in the regular season and the postseason at 25.6. 5,640 points in the postseason. He's had the most three-pointers in a game. That was 12 back in January of 2003. He had the 80-point game in January 2006. That's the second most of all time, of course, behind Wilt Chamberlain when he it dropped down 100, I believe. Heck of a basketball player. Let's get to another basketball player who's playing phenomenal. Another team that's playing phenomenal. That's the Golden State Warriors.
The Golden State Warriors have been absolutely amazing of late. They were 18 and 0, and they were playing a really, really good job right now. Steph Curry has done a phenomenal job. Just this team right now. I mean, Steve Kerr's not even in there. Luke Walton is their interim head coach due to Steve Kerr's back surgeries, and he's just done a wonderful job. And the question is when is this team going to lose? And are they going to do better than the 95-96 Bulls record of 72-10?
Yeah, that's what all the speculation is. I think they're going to lose. I mean, they're not going to go undefeated, but it's definitely possible that they push for that record.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But I don't think this team is as good as this 95-96 Bulls. I mean, you're talking about the best basketball player of all time in Jordan. You have Scottie Pippen. You have all those greats. So, and Steve Kerr was actually, I believe, on that team. So, it's just, I mean, I'm rooting for the Warriors, but yeah, there's no way they can go undefeated. It's just impossible.
Thursday night football preview really quick. That would be the Lions and the Packers. The Lions defeated the Packers. The Lions have won 3 in a row.
Yeah, they played really good of late after really a lot of questionable, a lot of firing coordinators.
Yep, general managers.
So they've actually looked a whole lot better lately.
Stafford is playing well. He's
Yeah.
getting Calvin Johnson involved, who looked sluggish early on in the season, but he's coming on and looks better than ever.
And then we have the Packers side of the ball, who have lost 4 out of their last 5 games.
Including on Thanksgiving to Chicago.
Yeah, and this is not, it's not really good for the Packers to lose to Chicago in Lambeau on Brett Favre night on Sunday night.
Well, that was a tough loss. I mean, but this Packers team isn't playing to expectations. The Aaron Rodgers isn't even playing to Aaron Rodgers' level that we've seen in his career. I mean, his career has career lows right now. But for him, I mean, they're better than most average quarterbacks, better than most quarterbacks in general. So We'll see. That should make for a good game. Logan, thanks for coming in on the Matt Kerns Show. And as always, thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to tune in next time as well.